Okay, here we are at what basically is the beginning of turn 6. I've laid out everybody's sort of claim markers, their prospectors, surveyors, and everything. One thing we notice, money's real tight. There are people who've chosen just not to do anything. Let's take a look. The first player, no prospector on the board. He's trying to make, and we knew about this, he's trying to make it into Aspen, which is up here. That's kind of, he's going to make it to Leadville. He doesn't get any payoff in Leadville. Aspen's his big money. And until he gets that set up, he can do nothing. He can't set up his passenger routes or anything. He has no cash, basically. And he's not going to be able to blast it in either. He's only got this little 9 train. He doesn't have the cash to pull it all through. So he's overextended in that expensive track route without the Leadville or Fairplay or Dillon. Some of those mines can bring you a little bit of extra cash. Without those, that's a tough route to make, I guess. At least in 6 players. It's not so bad in 4 or 5. Onward. Second player also held off on a prospector. Doesn't want to even look in the deck. Not interested. Has barely enough money to get to El Paso and buy that passenger route. That's his plan. Now he can hook up Taos pretty much at any time. But right now, we're talking lumber at Santa Fe. The money's just not worth it. If he needed to, yeah, sure. But better to just kind of take it easy and not extend too much. We see the same problem with Yellow, who's the third player, who ends up sidelining both a surveyor and prospector. He's trying to make it. Well, he's not really trying. He's heading to Albuquerque. But the biggie for him is he's got to get this run in with a 33 train coming out of Magdalena. That'll give him enough cash. He's going into El Paso with coal. Prices are good. They're not fantastic, but they're good. He should be able to be fine after this one turn kind of pause. And he would have been fine all the way through if he hadn't bought that extra surveyor. But maybe that helped him. It gave him a little bit of speed there. Some of the others, they seem in better shape. Red's got a hoard of cash. They're prospecting off the deck as well as trying to hook up Leadville. They have some silver in Leadville, but their main desire, hey, if I got the cash, I might as well buy those passenger routes. This one, for example, becomes pretty questionable with Leadville mines out there possibly collapsing for someone to try to compete with someone else over it or to buy it later. So they might be taking that. They might take the other one and force Green to have to spend some money and then do a die roll to try to take it away. Who else we got? Player 5 is Blue. Blue has a decent amount of money, and they're going to try to increase their coal production. They think that's probably their safest route. They'll get to Leadville when they have to. Maybe Westcliff is a little closer. They still haven't even delivered that silver. The silver prices are still depressed a little bit, and they figured not hook it up this turn. They've got better things to do. And then the final player is the 6th player, Purple. Purple's in great shape, tons of money. They're hooking up the Bingham copper mine. That's at max value. However, they haven't depleted that sucker. They want, and they've got 39, 48 capacity. Right now they could bring, what, 11, 12 copper? They've only got 3. So they could haul it all into Bingham at once. As long as nobody else is hooking up a copper mine, Pinos Altos could hook up. It's got a decent amount as well. They might as well pull the maximum value they can out of it. Or if their mine depletes, at which point, and that's very unlikely, this is a really great copper mine. In terms of being steady producer, it won't wipe out on you easily. But as long as it doesn't deplete, they might as well hold their bill. The question, of course, comes to, well, if it looks like Yellow's going to have enough money or start heading towards Pinos Altos, do they want to trump them and make sure that they can't sell quickly? And that's the kind of decision you make based on, are they in the lead, what's going on there? And on top of that, well, they're prospecting from the deck. There are some things out there they might want. Coal mines, Rangley, Craig, Bowie, all in their kind of next step over, and they were seriously considering Bowie, or Bowie, they would rather draw a card. Maybe there's something better in the deck. They're only risking a crappy 0-level prospector to begin with. Alright. So Yellow's decision to build this track for $40, that left them with only 15 bucks in their pocket. That means they can't trigger any of these production rolls. So essentially they're taking a pass on their production for the turn. It's not a bad thing. They're not hooked up to these. And like I said, you know, mines have a lifespan, right? Eventually you're going to roll badly. It's unlikely you're going to be able to roll the whole game through. At this early stage in the game, those guys are going to die sometime. It's not a big deal that you didn't roll them. This one, it might survive the whole game, but quite often with coal mines, you find you have enough coal for the whole game, and you end up shutting down your coal mines somewhere around here and still having extra left. So it's not a huge deal. They have a significant quantity, more than they can ship already there. They're going to get this payout, and then they can do their shipments. Well, Red bought their track for 180 bucks, and then they drew off the top of the deck, and this is what's dangerous. Go to jail and place this card on the bottom of the deck. Their prospectors in jail. They can pay to get him out, but there's a danger. These little wooden blocks can be a problem. Or they can, and that's there's a possibility of that getting reshuffled, so that's not buried deep down there forever. So they can pay to get him out, or they can make die rolls, and I think it's at the end of the turn, well, at the end of their turn during the pay fines phase, that they can roll to get him out. Wonderful sound, isn't it? Given that he's a +1 prospector, it would be appealing to grab him. Red's got a decent amount of money. He wants to hook up the track, the passenger run, so he's probably going to spring that 200 bucks. But it does take away one of his options. Anyway, I guess I'm just collecting money with him. He doesn't have anything else to run. Actually, Red did take the chance. They figured they're not going to make it to Leadville this turn, next turn, whatever. There's nothing really good out there. Drawing from the deck is always kind of risky. So, how about I just put it off, you know, see if I get a roll. And they didn't. It's not a terrible thing to be without a prospector, not when there's nothing out that you really want. One thing I'm thinking about this game, though, that's kind of a complete aside and belongs in the review, but I want to talk about it now because, hey, sometimes I forget to say things in the review. How absolutely intuitive this system is in comparison to the modern Euro interpretation of this kind of thing. Indeed, this is more intuitive than an 18xx game. You know, you're building the track, you're producing by rolling dice on charts that are right there in front of you. Everything is very easily seen. There's no tricky elements in here. This is really derived from that 1980s mentality of how gaming was. It made sense. War games make sense. Most of the games that were put out in that era made sense, even though there's a lot of little complex things here. And I'd compare this with something like Lords of Sierra Madre, which also doesn't have those horrible Euro elements which seek to remove the reality from the game. This is very, very tied to reality. Lords of Sierra Madre, the rules aren't terribly well written. It's obviously, you know, given the game designer, that's not surprising. But when you compare it to, you know, the modern designs, which I don't know if they're terribly better, they're certainly more interactive. This is much, much less interactive. Each player takes their turn in their turn. They're not all trying to do the same thing at the same time or whatever. And this is very, very clear, by the way. But even something like 1830, it's fairly easy to tell what's going on. But when you start getting, say, the Winsome games, you're taking a step away. What is this stuff? Yeah, it's getting more and more abstract. And when we start talking about, you know, something like In the Shadow of the Emperor, even though things are clearly linked to the subject matter to some extent, or theme, because there really isn't a subject when you're getting that far off the line. Well, it's just not really hitting home. It's not like you could just sit down and say, I'll figure it out as I go. You know, I can make these strategy decisions. Do I have enough money to make it here? Can I do these things? I can pick it up as I go. You can't. Those games, it's all about this intricate mechanism and how to take advantage of that. This game, it's intuitive. You know? Even if you don't know all the rules, you can mostly understand what you should be doing, right? Yeah, I didn't even have to tell you what the victory conditions are. It's not to gather victory points by having, you know, 6 people in this zone and so many here and this. No, it's to collect money through intuitive ways. And this is how games should be, in my opinion. Panning things out for the rest of the turn. Blue made another haul of 4 coal or whatever into Denver, making what, 320 bucks? Just a little bit of simple math there. And then purple got lucky and drew a Eureka mine up here. That's a silver mine, produce some more silver. They have a lot of cash, but not a lot of inflow. They made all that money with the silver. Now they have stuff available. They now have the copper set up, the silver in Heber City. They can hook up Eureka simply enough. I think, by the way, they're going to buy themselves another surveyor, because they do have a decent amount of cash. And surveyors are generally more valuable than prospectors. Might not seem that way, but the issue is you want to lay your track. You know, you want to get to certain places as quickly as possible. And you can do either branch offs by having a second surveyor, or you can put 2 surveyors in a row, and then you have to make that roll to try to beat the track size of the second one. You can't do that in the winter at all. All right. Cards? Oh, we had another Leadville depletion. Blues turn. They killed their Leadville mine. What are we at? 2, 5, 6, 7. We get another draw. That's Lake City silver. I don't know where the hell that is. It's one of those locations I can never find. It's somewhere here in the middle. There it is. Kind of in a difficult to get to place. And we'll have to do the... and I do these in the opposite order so I can film it. We'll have to do the price changes. Okay, quick update on the prices before we go. Gold staying steady, silver slowly climbing up, copper dropped back down. Just a luck factor. You know, chances were it wouldn't. 4 or 5 or less, and it goes up or stays even, so it would have been fine. So, you know, maybe purple should have sold it. It tends to rebound fairly quickly, so maybe they should have. Lumber market growing a little bit everywhere. Coal, Denver's getting depressed, and actually the Pueblo is a more valuable place. You can get the 80 bucks per turn by shipping it to Pueblo, and you can drop more coal there. Not because of this, but because it's closer and his train can haul more. The limits, Denver's much better. Denver also has that suppression to the effect of too much sales. All right, well, we're moving into the autumn. And I'm sorry this one took so long, probably because of my rant. I try to get at least 2 or 3 turns in. The game may feel kind of fast-paced on the video. The reality is it's not as fast-paced as those modern Euros. It really isn't. Because each player is taking their own time. And there will be a little bit of downtime. And I think that's a great thing, to tell you the truth. All right, up she goes.